Okay, the first story we're going to do is The Goblin Way. It says by Andrew Robinson. Is that the same one who played Plain Simple Garrick? Okay, not everybody get excited yet. But, because I was wondering too, but no. Different Andrew Robinson. There can be more than one. Monty Gaslow sighed, looking out over a vast mining operation from his spot on a platform above the mine's District floor. This was his fifth fact-finding tour of the week, and it seemed like he'd been going nonstop for months, taking stock of less than desirable working conditions amongst the goblins. This one was easily among the worst, though Marin Noggenfogger, Gaslow's host and guide, acted like everything was above board. If you know about Noggenfogger, that he's a popular gnome. No. Um, I think it was a goblin, yeah. Um, who came up with the Noggenfogger potion, which altered your sizes. This was a quest line way back in the day. All right, we'll go on. Noggenfogger waved for Gaslow's attention, looking out of place in a miraculously unsullied all-white suit that practically gleamed amidst the smoky air and rancid dripping space. It was clear he'd recently taken over this operation. "Over here!" he called. He turned to one of his bodyguards for help. "Is the two-shift work at the, Longwall Shearer?" Gaslow offered. Noggenfogger grinned. "Yeah, what you said. The Rock Chopper 3000. Beautiful piece of machinery, eh?" He beamed more broadly as he gestured down into the enormous mine at a steam-powered behemoth. Its fearsome metal teeth ground relentlessly into the bedrock to get at the vein of iron ore that was the lifeblood of this operation. "You gotta lean over the railing a little to really get a good look, unless you want to go down and see it up close," Noggenfogger added, beckoning Gaslow to the platform. Gaslow stepped closer to the railing, waving off his orc bodyguard Vaken. Unlike some goblins, including Noggenfogger, it seems, Gaslow had no fear of heights. As the shearer brought ground ore to the surface, Gaslow leaned against the rail to watch workers, mostly goblins and some orcs, operate walking mechs with steam shovels, which loaded ore into minecarts, which would take it to a processing plant. A number of workers had bandages wrapped around their limbs, likely because of the discarded machine parts cluttering the footpaths, and a few let out fits of wet, throaty coughs while clamping soiled rags over their mouths. Noggenfogger gave Gaslow a fidgety smiling, nodding as if to say, "Nice, eh?" Gaslow peered back down, and then a section of the railing detached from its mooring with a screech and swung out, leaving nothing but space between Gaslow and a deadly fall. He teetered for a moment before regaining balance, with the help of Vaken, who shot out a beefy hand to grab his collar and haul him swiftly backward. Gaslow whipped a glare at Noggenfogger, whose pointed ears rigid. Had this been Noggenfogger's aim? To stage some sort of accident? As newly installed head of the Bilgewater cartel and de facto representative of his race to the Horde, Gaslow was aware he had enemies. But he honestly hadn't thought an attempt on his life would come this soon, let alone be this ham-fisted. Gaslow narrowed his eyes. "Look, Noggenfogger, I don't know what you think you know about me, but I don't die that easily." At that, Vaken planted himself between Gaslow and the mine boss, scowling. Whoa, Trade Prince, look, it's me, Noggenfogger. I would never do that. In fact, I'm just as shocked as you are." For what it was worth, Noggenfogger had gone a deadly shade of pale green, though whether this was from the realization his murder schemes had failed, or because he was truly taken by surprise, Gaslow couldn't say. "Believe me," he said, surveying the platform, "that was an accident. This calamitous breach of construction will not go unpunished, let me assure you." Becken took a step toward Noggenvager, cracking his knuckles with a deep grumble, but Gazlo put out a hand to stay the orc. He had no reason to trust Noggenvager. In fact, at this point, he knew that he couldn't. But he did see that the head of the Steamweedle cartel was at least as unnerved as he was. Before the tour, Noggenvager had made it quite clear that he hadn't even wanted Gazlo down there. While flipping through some of the financial statements, he offered Gazlo more than one drink. Knowing Noggenvager's reputation for poisons and elixirs, Gazlo had repeatedly demurred. He only begrudgingly arranged for a brief overview of the operations at Gazlo's insistence, rambling on about how his time here was limited for the day, what with having a whole other city to run. Ultimately, Gazlo had used the power of the Horde to strong-arm Noggenvager into agreeing. With a practiced eye, Gazlo ascertained that the platform had been assembled hastily within the last few days. He ground his teeth together. "This is the problem I keep encountering," he murmured to Becken. "Our people are smart but erratic. Genius ideas, inconsistent in execution. We solve difficult logistical problems, but all too often it's the fact that we don't pay attention to the details, to quality control, that undoes our best efforts." The orc crossed his arms and grunted in agreement. In the wake of all that has happened since the disappearance of the former leader of the Bilgewater cartel, Jaster Gallywix, Gazlo has taken pains to inspire the people in this cartel to aim higher and to convince others to do the same. He promoted those who pay attention to detail, who tighten bolts an extra turn and measure twice before they cut. He paid his crew better than anyone else, and the results spoke for themselves. He'd always been known for getting things done, and he'd never disappoint. He looked over at Noggenvager. "For now, I'm willing to believe you didn't just try to off me. For now. So, lead on." Noggenvager gave a relieved smile. "Smelting and slicing up ahead next juncture." They walked on towards an opening in the distance, stepping over oily puddles. "This kind of thing," Gazlo said, waving his hand to indicate the entirety of the mine. "A lot of the Horde doesn't respect goblins." Noggenvager blinked his beady gray eyes. Gazlo ducked under a sagging support beam. "Some folks think we're unreliable," he pointed back toward the broken railing. "Greedy," he fixed Noggenvager with a pointed look. "Disrespectful. That assessment strike you as accurate?" Truth be told, those prejudices deeply bothered Gazlo. But before he could tackle the Horde's opinions, he would first have to change how goblins perceive one another. This mine was a microcosm of larger problems. Rushed jobs, shoddy craftsmanship, poor upkeep, overworking people, and management smiling broadly while siphoning off a fat paycheck. Boy, that sounds familiar. Noggenvager barked a bitter laugh. "Like their hands are so clean," he snorted. "Anyways, we hold our own just fine. Most goblins aren't even part of the Horde, or the Alliance for that matter. They value their independence too much." As they approached one end of a vast chamber, Noggenvager began yammering on about how smoothly things were going, praising his own management. "I tell ya, the engineers are always doing engineering stuff. We got explosive guys working explosives. We got drillers, delvers, diggers, and drivers. I saw our shifts gone day and night. Nobody leaves till their quota's being filled." He laughed. "Not if they want to get paid." Gazlo nodded, scoping out the miners. The overseers worked with enthusiasm, shouting threats into bullhorns, but the pace, Gazlo could see, showed the telltale signs of overwork. Here and there, diggers stopped to lean on their shovels. Gazlo, one of the best engineers of his generation, could see indications that the steam-powered ore-shearing machine wasn't operating properly. He could hear a piston misfiring. He could see and smell the acrid smoke that told him the engine was burning more oil than it should. An audible rattle suggested that the rock chomper would need repairs sooner rather than later, and he could see the same issues throughout the cavern. The place was full of death machines, and more death machines. Gazlo picked his way down a slope crumbling with debris and approached a miner transporting ground ore into a cart with a wheelbarrow, not far from a rocket-powered drill sitting idle, dripping some kind of noxious-smelling goop into the dirt. The worker spilled his haul and swore. "Hey, pal! Over here! How's it going?" The miner wiped a blackened hand across his sweaty brow and rested on his shovel. "Well, to be honest," he started, but stopped when he saw Nagelfagr peering down at him. Nagelfagr wore a carefully neutral face. "Go ahead." "Split spark," the miner grimaced. "Sir," he added hurriedly. "Split spark. That's right. Tell Mr. Gazlo how it's going down here." The worker glanced at his overseer, whose stony face was unmistakably warning. It's aces as great as Mr. Nagelfagr. Couldn't be happier. We're moving ore like it's nobody's business. So," he motioned to his wheelbarrow, I gotta get back to work. Those quotas ain't gonna fill themselves." He busied himself with collecting his spilled hull. Gazlo motioned toward a barrel of water. "Sure you don't want to rust? A drink?" Splitspark wiped his perspiring brow, unwittingly showing angry blisters on his hands. "Oh, no. I had some water yesterday, thanks." Nagelfagr smiled and beckoned Gazlo away. "You see? Hunky-dory. Happy miners, happy engineers, happy drivers, happy drill bits, happy customers. And my operation is clean." Gazlo looked at Vakken, who'd just blown a loud snort of offense and disgust. "Look, Foggy, Nagelfagr. Yeah, whatever." "Whatever? Now that's a goblin being disrespectful. You seem to be forgetting I'm leader of the Steam Wheel Cartel, Gazzy." Gazlo cackled. "And you seem to be forgetting I'm the trained prince of the Bilgewater Cartel. So, lying to my face, is that really how you want to start this relationship?" Nagelfagr sputtered, and his bodyguards started to unsheath truncheons, but Nagelfagr waved them to a halt. "Well, that's about as much time as I've got for today," he said. Gazlo climbed back up the hill of debris to join him. "Let's say we keep going." Nagelfagr bristled for a moment. "With respect," he growled. "I didn't think you'd be here for so long. I've got meetings and whatnot to tend to in Gadgetzan, so we're doing this," Gazlo assured him with a smile, gesturing for him to continue leading the way. "With respect. I'm sure you wouldn't let Gadgetzan get this bad, would you?" Nagelfagr mumbled and guided Gazlo farther into the mine, their bodyguards trailing them from a distance. "I know what you're trying to sell me here, and I'm not buying it," Gazlo said, climbing over a collapsed pipe. "What I'm seeing is your people are overworked and underpaid. Your engineers and tinkers aren't motivated. Your machines ain't getting maintained properly, and that's dangerous." Nagelfagr started to object. Gazlo raised a finger, then pointed back to where they left the shearing machine. "I can hear bolts rattling on that rock chomper. So, the most generous interpretation here is that this guy's great with elixirs and potions and whatnot, and he's even used to mayoring, but maybe he doesn't know anything about mining, and a little bit too much about the bottom line." Nagelfagr snorted. "The bottom line is king. Nobody cares about maintenance. They care about results." Gazlo grabbed the hand of the nearest worker, revealing the same angry bandaged wounds he'd seen on Splitspark. Skipping maintenance impacts results with your people as much as your machines. How can you expect your engineers to grip a wrench with hands like these? Sure, we get a lot of workers calling out sick, but that's any job, Fogger countered. Gazlo sniffed deeply and felt the rank rasp of oily fumes in his nostrils. And the air? You know it ain't good. You're using cheap fuel and rancid oil. You gotta burn cleaner, get the ventilation systems up, and try and pass this off as a clean outfit? Come on, Noggin Niffler. Noggin Fogger. Martin Noggin Fogger. Noggin Fogger glared. And it ain't a lie. I'm clean. Most of that stuff doesn't rise to my level of oversight, so I've got plausible deniability of all that mess. Gazlo glared back. That ain't what running a clean operation means. Clean means you're not polluting. Noggenfogger's eyes went wild, and he hastened to smooth down his pure white suit, which had become increasingly wrinkled and stained with greasy droplets. Oh. Well, then, no. The work gives off a natural vapor. What am I supposed to do about that? That's what you call a misunderstanding of frankly confusing terminology. Gazlo gestured for Noggenfogger to cross a creaky catwalk first. Noggenfogger hesitated far too long before obliging. Then Gazlo followed. Look, this ain't just about your bottom line. There's more work we could all have from the Horde. Maybe from folks too, if we can run a tighter outfit together. But how am I supposed to talk to a shaman or a druid with your mind belching out this smog? How can we convince clients you're reliable when you've got workers out here every day with injuries like that? Look, you come in here. You got no idea what I've had to do to get where I am. You think it's easy scheming your way into a mayorship? On the top slot in Steamweedle? The palms I've greased? The elixirs I've concocted? Gazlo laughed. That don't make you special. I rose through the Steamweedle system just like you. Besides, your rivals and enemies seem to mysteriously go toes up in a lot more than the average. Allegedly, Noggenfogger corrected. Gazlo cocked an eyebrow. Seriously? Okay, sure, I may be the best alchemist there is, Noggenfogger paddled. And I got my famous elixir and the occasional other stuff. But it ain't the point. I had to compete with the likes of Gallywix and the Venture Company, and now I'm the boss here. So I should get to call the shots. Me, and a lot of other goblins, believe that if I don't take things this far, I'll be replaced, or worse. Besides, I didn't see anyone making Gallywix clean up his act. No one stops the Venture Company. But I'm the bad guy? Gazlo paused. I know you know what happened to Gallywix. I know he had to split, but he's got nothing to do with Steamweedle or this mine. You had occasion to deal with him, running Gadget's End. Yeah, he was a bastard. I hated his guts, but I respected how he did business. Did you? Did you respect how he took advantage of his own people and put them to work in those mines, after taking everything they owned in exchange for transport away from Mount Kajaro when it was erupting during the cataclysm? I mean, yeah, harsh, but that's dedication to profit. That's what's going on here. Allow me to explain something. Having injured and sick workers using poorly maintained machinery eats into the bottom line. It's a short-term gain for a long-term loss. Fixing your tools now, having happy, healthy employees now, is an investment. A damn good one. That ain't how we've always done it. Gallywix wasn't a businessman. He was a con man and a criminal. Profit above everything else ain't good business. A lot of people wanted him gone. His own mother tried to assassinate him twice. He solved a lot of problems, but he made worse ones out of them. He got stuff done, but he wrecked more. I asked him once if it bothered him taking advantage of those refugees and working his own people to the bone. You know what he said? It's the Goblin Way. Supply and demand. Deal with it. Noggenfogger shrugged. That is the Goblin Way, right? No, it ain't. That was Gallywicks's way. The Goblin Way is invention, innovation, partnership. Those things cost a lot, but they earn a lot for every goblin, not just for a few. Gazlo said, I swear you're missing my point on purpose. Supply and demand is one way to do things. But we can't always be thinking of just ourselves no more. The world is changing. There's nothing wrong with how I run this mine, Noggenfogger protested. Maybe it's no day at the spa, but production is up ever since I took over. Noggenfogger's attitude put Gazlo in mind of another goblin leader he had hoped to forget, because his legacy was as bad in its own way as Gallywicks's, notorious all over Azeroth for their lumber and mining operations, which was to say clear-cutting forests and strip mining areas, leaving barren scars across the land. And the way they operated their oil rigs was reckless at best. Not to mention their arms dealing with groups that neither Horde nor Alliance found palatable. Heard of Mogul Razdunk? Gazlo inquired. Of course, former head of the venture company. We modeled this operation on theirs. Of course you did, Gazlo thought. Razdunk was aggressive, he said, but again, he didn't consider the repercussions of his actions, and it caught up with him. He oversaw the venture company through expansion in Mulgore, the Storytime Mountains, Kultiras, Grizzly Hills, Solashar Basin, and Stranglethorn. But here's the thing. Everywhere they go for a quick buck, it pisses people off, and folks find a way to fight back, to make it harder and harder for them to do business. Pretty soon, everyone there's attacking them, but they just keep doing it. Noggenfogger looked less certain. Well, that's the market, though, right? Business is business. Gazlo shook his head. Business is personal. When you wreck someone's home, that's personal, and it's bad for business. They had arrived at a sluice town, a collection of tin shacks that stood hard against the sluices that ran already dirty water over the crushed rock to create a slurry that would separate ore from waste. The ore was run into a massive smelting plant, which melted the rock and purified the ore into metal. This was even worse than Gazlo had expected. The dim lights flickered badly. The air was oily and stale. His eyes burned a little. Gazlo wheezed. You gotta get this place ventilated. The air. You gotta know this ain't sustainable. Sustainable? Noggenfogger scoffed. What are you now, a shaman? Gazlo shrugged. I've been called worse by better people. But I'm glad you mentioned it. Part of why I'm here is that the elements themselves have taken offense to stuff like what's happening here, and what the venture company does. I'm hearing Azeroth is about out of patience with us, and you, Mayor Gadget-san, leader of the Steam Wheel Cartel, and yeah, head of this operation. You gotta take your share of responsibility for that. Noggenfogger humphed. Gazlo had seen enough. He gestured. Noggenfogger led them back into the shearing cavern, where Gazlo called out to a goblin working a machine. Hey, pal! How many times has this machine broke down? This week? 5, he replied plainly. And how much production time has that cost you? The goblin resignedly turned his palms skyward. Gazlo turned his ire back on Noggenfogger. And exactly how many sick days have your employees taken because of injury, poor conditions? Noggenfogger hesitated. Well, you know about as much about your operation as Razdunk did. He thought he was going to get rich and become a trade prince. What he got was blown up by Gallywicks. Don't worship these jokers, Gazlo said. Don't model yourself on them. There are better models. Look at the Horde Council. Noggenfogger scowled. How'd you get on the Horde Council anyway, eh? What makes you so special? Nothing. The difference between me and other trade princes is I don't think the world is just here to feed me. I learned a while back. You do better when you don't make it all about you. Nagafire looked put upon. So what? You arrive, tell me what I'm doing wrong, and then throw me to the wolves to fix it? I get the short end, and you enjoy tea and crumpets? I don't like crumpets. Look, I know we got a steep uphill climb, but if we don't change our business, and I mean for all of us, all the goblins, not the mine, we're going to get left behind. We need to start lifting each other up instead of seeing each other as competition. And I'm hoping that you and I can start together. Nagafagr took a step back. His beady eyes went wide, and then he scowled again, suspicion written all over his sallow face. Now it makes sense. It's not enough you got the bilge water under your thumb, and probably some of the steam wheedle, and your pals in the horde to back your play. You want my mining operation for yourself. I ask for help. You move in and take over. You're as bad as Gallywix. In fact, you're worse. At least he was honest about how downright foul he was. Gazlo sighed, pinching the bridge of his long nose. I don't want the mine. I didn't want to be head of the Bilgewater cartel. I didn't want to have to represent all goblins to the horde. I mean, between you and me, that's a lot of pressure. He gazed at the whirring shearer wistfully. I could just be watching speed barge races, he mused. Then why'd you take it? There are plenty of goblins who'd kill your whole family for either of those. I'm probably one of them. Gazlo looked sharply at Nagafagr, but the mine leader didn't care. And you got 'em both, Nagafagr concluded. Some smart guy once said, if someone really wants to be the boss of everything, under no circumstances should they be allowed to have the job. He stared fixedly at Nagafagr. Nagafagr looked abashed. Because they're only in it for themselves. Gazlo smiled. He can be taught. Nagafagr snorted. You can't tell me you don't enjoy all that power. Oh, make no mistake. Being powerful is better than being powerless. If I wanted to be bigger than Gallywix, I could have that. I'm honestly not interested. But like I said, it's more about the responsibility. The other reason is, if you want something done, you ask a busy person. What's that supposed to mean? The council chose me because they knew I could get things done. Plus, Gazlo added, they know I'm a goblin of my word and loyal to the horde. Big deal. I've got loyal friends in the horde. We both know that ain't true. Even I was selling to both sides for a while, and there's plenty of goblins who think gold is gold. Nagafagr smirked. Well, you can't spend honor, can you? Gazlo turned away. Nagafagr furrowed his brow. Look, what you're saying is great, but how I run things here, it's just how things done. As if on cue, the sound of mechanical grinding filled the air, followed by an explosion and plenty of shouting. The huge shearing machine's engine was venting steam, and workers carried injured operators to safety. Nagafagr swore, deliberately avoiding Gazlo's gaze. This is going to hold up production. Hey! He screamed at the workers. Back to work! Someone fix that! Tinkers and engineers gathered around the machine, which continued to smoke. Head machinist out injured, one worker shouted. Two other workers lifted blunted and broken tools, exchanging looks of defeat. Nagafagr looked on helplessly. Whatever else you might be, Nagi, Gazlo urged, you ain't dense. I think you maybe could turn this place around, and I can help you. But you gotta be willing to play nice, and not just with me. Nagafagr looked unmoored. Our whole system is built on competition, not cooperation. It's how we solve problems. Survival of the fittest, the cleverest, the most ruthless, the best deal makers. It's how we innovate. Why you're trying to fix what ain't broken? Oh, it's broken. And I'm going to show you why. This ain't the Goblin Way. They headed closer to the blast radius. The bodyguards joined them. As they approached the drilling site, the workers saw them coming and gave way to clear a path. Gazlo could hear murmurs and knew the workers were confused he was there. Heck, they were confused that Nagafager was in attendance, if not there to threaten them. Gazlo approached several engineers gathered around the open hood of the engine, and Nagafager followed. All right, what's going on? An older goblin in grease-stained overalls glared. Don't get your pantaloons in a He stopped when he realized to whom he was talking. Oh, Mr. Noggenfogger, sorry. Look, this beast is long in the tooth. We've been washing out filters instead of replacing them, and it's gunked up. The vibrations take a toll. I mean, we've been tightening bolts left and right, but eventually the threads get stripped, and they just won't hold. The gaskets are kind of shot, and the differential keeps slipping. This machine alone's going to take a fortune to fix. I can't afford to have this offline for long, Nagafager told Gazlo. My clients expect shipments on the regular. This'll put me behind. If you let me take some of the heat, will you put the work in here? Gazlo asked. Nagafager looked grim, but there were no better options before him. I'll give it a shot. Gazlo took a step toward the machine. Tinker, right? What's your name? Ollie Spracknozzle. You're Mr. Gazlo. Call me Monty. Yeah, Spracknozzle. You know, Skagit used to be head of the Tinkers Union here. One of my crew. Think he's mentioned you more than once in the positive, Ollie. Spracknozzle cracked a grin. He's good people. Then he looked hesitant. Look, excuse my asking, but what are you doing here? We, Gazlo gestured to himself and Nagafager, are here to help. Ollie screwed up his face. No offense, but this is a mechanics thing, not a... He paused, clearly seeking a word that wouldn't offend. Not a big shot thing. Bosses don't help. They boss. Gazlo grinned. Let's see if we can change that particular perception. Nagafager was at least savvy enough to grimace noncommittally so as not to actively agonize the crowd. His bodyguards and the miners were both on edge. Still Gazlo continued. As it turns out, Ollie, I happen to be a fair engineer myself. Mind showing us the problem? The tinker hesitated, clearly not used to deference from bosses, then shrugged, motioning one hand toward the engine. At that, Gazlo removed his jacket and rolled up his sleeves. He gestured to Spracknozzle's tooth belt. I didn't bring my own, Ollie. You mind? What are you doing? Nagafager hissed, pulling Gazlo aside. Gazlo stooped beside the broken machine. What's it look like? I'm fixing this thing. You're gonna make me look bad. Well, hell, Noggenfogger. You say you're a good leader and hustler, so hustle. Get your people in here to help. Gazlo paused, an idea take a shape. In fact, yeah, one of them elixirs of yours. It literally makes people tiny, among other things. Break out whatever stash you got. Give it to your tinkers and engineers, and actually get them in there to help me fix it. Nagafager gasped. Sorry, give it to them? For free? He hissed under his breath. The ingredients alone. Big picture. Gazlo glared at the mine leader, who gritted his teeth, wrestling with the idea. Fine. Nagafager stomped off. In the next half hour, Nagafager, somewhat reluctantly, returned with a case of his special elixir and gave it to a platoon of somewhat reluctant machinists, engineers, and tinkerers who had volunteered to help Gazlo fix the rock chomper. They got to work. One was Gazlo was in his element now, under the hood solving a mechanical issue, oblivious to the growing crowd of workers trying to figure out what was going on. Nagenvager looked on, tapping his foot, glancing around. He moved alongside Ollie. A spark nozzle. The workers who got hurt. How many? 4, Mr. Nagenvager. Tell them, Nagenvager winced, that with no admission of culpability, mind you, I'm going to take care of them. Like medically, I mean. I've got something to make 'em right. Ollie looked at Nagenvager as if he spoke gibberish. He opened his mouth to respond, but had trouble finding words. You, that, that'll be a load off their minds. Nagenvager nodded. A gap-toothed grin spread across Ollie's face. I'll let him know, sir. Nagenvager took a deep breath and addressed the crowd. This may take a while, but don't worry. We'll get this fixed as soon as possible. So you all take the rest of the day off. The workers did not quite know how to respond. With pay, he said with a sigh. And the crowd cheered, even as most of them stayed. There was entertainment value to what was happening now. Gazlo, working on the engine, smiled in the darkness of the machine's underbelly. His plan had worked. Hey, Nagenvager, he called out. You want to see how to fix one of these things? Nagenvager stooped beside him. Yeah, he said, peering into the open engine compartment where the tinkers were gathered around Gazlo. I'd appreciate it. Gazlo grinned. Maybe his was going to work even better than he thought. After his team added a greasy solution of one thing, replaced a few stripped gears and cracked bolts and gaskets, as well as doing some preventative maintenance, Gazlo turned the final screw, stood, and wiped his hands on his pants. That should do it, he nodded, and a machinist pulled the lever. The machine began to rumble and putter before it let out a healthy whirl. Nagenvager let out a sigh of relief. The workers looked on in a bit of shock and surprise, while those who had helped out from the inside congratulated each other. One of the elixirs wore off, and they regained their size. Nagenvager's bottom lip puckered out as he regarded the empty case of his famous elixir. Then he studied Gazlo warily. You're serious. You want to help, not take over. Gazlo nodded. Knew you weren't dense. Thought you may want to reconsider wearing white when making your rounds next time. Nagenvager sagged a bit. Okay, I admit I could use the help. But you know how tough it is to change things. Could I pay my people more? Some, I guess. At that, a few workers within earshot gave him reproachful looks. Healthcare. I don't even know what that looks like. But we could find a place for a clinic or something. Maintenance, I get. But I don't have enough tinkers as it is. And the ones I got ain't worth a bucket of warm spit. The tinker behind him scowled, mumbling a profanity before stalking off. Gazlo shrugged. Or they're feeling misused and therefore not giving you their best. And maybe you don't remember what this is like, Mr. Horde Counselor, Nagenvager said. But I got people around me. People who don't like profit margins getting eaten into. If I can't produce, they'll find someone who can. Can you help with that? Besides, if word gets out I'm going soft, what happens then? Then you got an opportunity to show him what's what. Nagenvager's nostrils flared. I'm serious, Gazlo. You know what I'm talking about. Other cartels, other trade princes, always looking for some sign of weakness to pounce. And you know they'd see me doing all that, costing us money, and going for the kill. Gazlo took that in. Okay, You may have a point there. Damn straight I do. What if Steamweedle had bilge water backing your play, taking a little heat off of you? The two biggest cartels working together? Then you'd be working from a position of strength. Nagafogger weighed the offer, weighed his trust. In the meantime, Gazlo added, maybe you could put that big alchemy brain to work on the opposite of a poison. What, an antidote? No, genius. Cures for diseases, health potions, medicines. Oh, right. Well, I already got some things in the works. You weren't thinking for free, were you? Gazlo crossed his arms. Sure was. But I'd consider it more an investment than a giveaway. Noggenfire cursed under his breath. Lot of work, but yeah. Fine. His eyes lit up. Plus, it's a whole new revenue stream. Let him call me soft then. He looked at Gazlo. You don't want a commission on that, do you? Gazlo chuckled. I'll give you that one for free. Noggenfogger nodded, now grateful. I guess. I appreciate you coming down here after all. Gazlo regarded Noggenfogger. Humility is a rare quality in a goblin, especially in a boss. Tells me you're not a lost cause. Noggenfogger squinted. I'm not sure whether you just complimented me or insulted me. Gazlo smacked his lips. What about that drink? Why will you show me the real books? Noggenfogger winced. It's all through that one, huh? Gazlo sipped from his glass of Badlands bourbon in Noggenfogger's well-appointed office, which overlooked the mining operations like an eyrie. Noggenfogger had opened the ledgers, the real ones this time, he assured Gazlo, and it was pretty much as Gazlo had suspected. Grafting, insufficient reinvestment, skimming from the workers. Standard operating procedure for goblin bigwigs for as long as Gallywix had held the reins. In fact, it wasn't just Noggenfogger taking a bite out of profits. Other bosses were as well, meaning it could be dangerous for Noggenfogger to rock the boat. If so, he could lose more than money by making it stop. I see room for improvement. You see how much I need to do? Noggenfogger leaned back into his armchair. Even if I play it totally straight, upgrading the machinery, putting all those safety regs in place, healthcare, paying folks more, I'm going to be in the red in no time. Rebuilding this place? It's going to cost a fortune, and it's not just my profits that'll be affected. Maybe things are different in the Horde, but the other goblins, even trade princes, have others trying to get their cut. And everyone who gets a cut will be looking to get things back to the old way. Gazlo slipped his drink. Like I said, I got a reputation as someone who gets things done where the Horde is concerned. Noggenfogger wrapped his long nails on the wood desk. Thought you sold to both sides. At a certain point, I realized that while gold might spend the same, what happened with the things the gold bought didn't always feel right. Something changed in me after Garrosh was defeated, and I got summoned to repair the damage he left behind in Ogremar. You've been? Noggenfogger shook his head. Gazlo continued. I was chief engineer there for a while before I started up Ratchet for Steamweedle. Thrall himself asked me to survey the damage. You've met Thrall, right? Thrall the war chief? He's not war chief anymore. Noggenfogger grimaced. I've seen him from a distance once or twice. The guy's larger than life. Not that I'd ever tell him this, but I was still a little in awe. I've seen plenty of leaders who ruled by violence and fear, or by outmaneuvering their opponents and their friends. Seen leaders who ruled through a moral arm twisting. But Thrall, he's different. He's decent. Nagenfugger cocked a skeptical bushy eyebrow. I mean, not for nothing, but he named the city after his best friend. He named the continent after his dad. Gazlo considered that. Yeah, okay, fair point. But they had to name things something. Anyway, Thrall could have been war chief as long as he wanted. He could have ruled the Horde, and maybe the world, but he never seemed to want it. And he's so earnest. Nagenfugger gesturedly impatiently. So he brought you in, gave you the 5 copper tour, and the place was a mess. But between all that destruction, I noticed Thrall greeting people by name. Hundreds of people. Somehow we knew the names of folks so far beneath the station that they should have been invisible. The big guy just radiated compassion, empathy, whatever it was. I've never encountered it from anyone before. And everywhere he went, these people who had their homes, their lives, everything destroyed, they trusted him to set it right. That trust, it was something I didn't see enough of between our people. We finished the tour. The drag, the bank, the Valley of Strength, the Zeppelin Tower, and he asked me how much it'll cost to rebuild it all. Better than it was, Gazlo concluded. Now I realize he's in a bind, and he came to me because, well, I'm the best. Plus, I've helped him out before. He trusts me. You had him over a barrel. That's one way to look at it. The thing is, the way I wanted to do it, mixing materials, building stronger and whatnot, means more labor, more machines, higher shipping costs, and so on. And I gotta make a profit too. I got mouths to feed. So I give Thrall my bid for the gig. You should have seen his face. Didn't go for it? He was set back on his heels. Hard. But I explained what needed done, and he agreed to convince the Horde. Nagenfugger flashed his teeth. Sucker. The point, Gazlo rubbed his forehead, frustrated, is he treated me as an expert, a master of my craft. I named the figure, and even though he was unhappy about it, he didn't haggle or argue me down. He showed me respect. The leader of the whole frickin' Horde. I guess that's hard to come by. It's exceedingly rare, my friend, and hard-earned. But you and your crew at least gave them their money's worth. Gazlo gazed at Nagenfugger, who now seemed even more receptive to the message he needed to convey than he seemed earlier. I gotta tell you something I never told anyone before, he said, leaning in. Nagenfugger leaned in. This is where big picture thinking comes in, he explained. Since he showed me respect, he made me want to earn his respect. What I understood at that moment was Thrall would do anything for his people, and I was going to do everything in my power to make sure that my people did the best work we've ever done. That's what he does. You get to know him, and he makes you want to live up to his standards. And unlike Gallywix. Well, like I said, Gallywix was a sociopath. He offered to do it cheaper, but no. Thrall came to me. So what'd you do? Gazlo made Nagenfugger wait for it. I dropped my price for him. Nagenfugger stared, then shook his head. Gazlo chuckled. You should have seen his face then. Like it didn't compute that a goblin's first, last, and only thought wasn't just filthy lucre. You're telling me you didn't make bank on the job? Oh, I made a profit. Just not as much as I could have. Point is, I made the war chief respect me more. And I assumed he didn't keep it to himself. I'm hoping it was the first step to changing how everyone else in the Horde sees us. and maybe how we start looking at ourselves. He pointed down at the repaired shearing machine. That accident down there? There was an accident we were rebuilding too. Folks from all the races of the Horde pitched in to help and get things back on track. Everyone and everything was taken care of. Seeing that changed how I looked at the world and what I wanted out of it. To be part of something bigger than outdoing the guy next to me, Gaslow continued. My whole crew will tell you we were proud of the job we did, and we were even prouder that we did it for the Horde. He tipped his glass to Nagenfucker. Now I want to share that with you. Nagenfucker frowned. Want me to be proud of being a goblin? I want all of us. Gaslow waved his hand to indicate all goblins in general. To be proud of being goblins. I want us to be proud of what we can build. And I want the Horde to be proud to be associated with us. I want us to start looking to the future, to stop treating each other as enemies, and understand that not everything is transactional or a zero-sum game. He leaned back and put up his feet. What we did back there at the site, did you see how that mattered? Yes? No? I don't know. Gaslow gave a genial smile. Because nothing changes the atmosphere. Nothing gains your respect like a boss who wants to help and is willing to learn and compromise. It'll move mountains. Nagenfucker squinted at Gaslow. I just still can't figure out your angle. No angle, buddy. If we don't start helping each other, we're going to tear each other apart until there's nothing left of us. Nagenfucker didn't argue now. He looked as introspective as he was ever going to look. At that, he raised his glass. To a new way. To a new way. Damn, that was good. So that was the Goblin Way, and looks like that always thought that Gallywix was kind of stand-in for Bobby Kotick. I mean, they do kind of look the same, no? I kind of like this. Or I hope they actually have this in the game itself.